welcome to Doors and Corners, a sci-fi and fantasy film commentary podcast. I'm Brian.
And I'm Zach. And every Friday we sit down and watch a science fiction or fantasy film and give our 2 cents on its quality, production, story, and trivia.
We watch the film together, but without sounds or visuals provided to avoid copyright issues. But if you do have access, we encourage you to join us and follow along.
Here, we like to keep things casual, and there may be discussions of spoilers or sensitive materials or language. But we do try and keep things clean and family-friendly. Ultimately, the goal of this podcast is to create the experience of us all sitting down and watching this movie together.
So get ready to hit that play button, because we're about to get started.
Damn doors and corners, I mean, that's where they get you.
Welcome back to Doors and Corners. I'm Brian.
I'm Zach.
And tonight, we are following up on the 1981 Clash of the Titans with the 2010 Clash of the Titans.
And this movie is said to be a remake of the original.
There's some
Brian, would you
threads.
describe this as a remake?
I would call this a loosely inspired by, maybe something like that.
Okay.
It has some
Yeah.
characters with the same names. There's a scorpion.
Wow.
There are scorpions in both. There's a Medusa sequence in both. The main character has the same name, but that's about it.
There is the line, "Release the Kraken." That's a thread.
That is a thing. I believe that line existed even before the 1981 film, though. Somewhere in a book, I'm pretty sure that line exists.
Well, it didn't exist in Greek mythology because the Kraken didn't exist in Greek mythology.
And just like in the 1981 version, this movie really likes to call things Titans that aren't Titans, right?
That is correct. They mention at the very beginning, which we'll be going over here very shortly, they do mention the Titans in a way that is theoretically accurate in terms of, yes, those are what the Titans are, but the story of them is all wrong. Darn you, Gemma Ackerton, and your terrible narration. Not her fault, of course. But darn you, Io, and your terrible recollection. You should know better.
Yeah.
But yes, the Titans are completely incorrect in this. And actually, interestingly enough, they get the Titans significantly correct in the sequel to this movie, Wrath of the Titans. For the most part.
This movie, when we were talking before we started recording, I said it this way, and I still can't think of a better way to describe this. This is fantasy action movie, the movie, to me. That's just kind of how it comes across to me.
Yeah, this feels very in the vein of like Aragon, maybe even like Percy Jackson.
Mm.
I Am Number 4. Wait, that wasn't fantasy.
Is it?
No, but like
No.
that was science fiction. Aliens. I think that it just doesn't stand out. There are a couple things that stand out in it, like the fact that the Release the Kraken meme is still around to this day, 15 years later. You know, less prevalent than it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, but it still exists, you know? It's an older meme, sir, but it still checks out.
Oh, yeah. Nice. Yeah,
And-
this movie's also like tied, and you mentioned this last week, it's tied so much to this era where, yeah, the MCU was just really kicking off, 2000, Iron Man 2, Incredible Hulk, which we've all recently watched, and the Star Trek 08 and Into Darkness was coming out, and
09.
Avatar, Star Trek 09. Avatar obviously was, what, 2007, I don't want to say? Something like that?
Avatar was 2009.
Really? Okay.
Yep.
Well, I know that this was so associated with one, kind of the rise of the big action showcase thing again, and 3D,
Yes.
which was awful, by
really
the way.
interesting story
in this movie, especially.
Really interesting story with its 3D, because some people had kind of predicted, including the director Louis Leterrier, that 3D was going to be a big thing, because it was, by the time that they were making this, it was well known that James Cameron was going to be doing Avatar in 3D, and some people in the business knew that Avatar was going to be a huge trendsetter, and they wanted to follow that, and he actually pitched it as a movie that they could make in 3D and make it really cool. And the studio said, no, that'll be way too expensive. And then, after the movie was finished, they were in post-production, and the studio was like, everything's going to 3D. We need to convert it to 3D.
Yeah.
And the 3D conversion cost like 10 to 15 million dollars.
And still looked like garbage.
And yeah, he hated it. In fact, the director, Louis, I'm not positive, he's French, Leterrier, has disowned this movie because it wasn't, to quote him, it wasn't the movie he wanted to make, and it ended up just bad. And he thinks that it ended up bad. He says that a lot of that is his fault, a lot of it's the studio's fault. But weirdly enough, this is one of the few movies that we've gone over that doesn't have like a huge amount of behind the scenes drama. It's just, it got made.
Yeah.
And a lot of people just went, this isn't great. And
yeah,
disowned it.
Wasn't, no, I'm thinking of Terminator Salvation. Because I know that Cameron actually pushed, maybe it was this movie also. Cameron pushed Sam Worthington pretty hard to kind of get him into some movies. I know Terminator Salvation was one of them. Do you know off the top of your head if this is also one of the ones that he somewhat owes his role to good old
not
Jim Cameron?
Not quite. From what I read, Louis Leterrier gave this he gave some information about casting Sam Worthington, and he had seen him in a different movie, which I don't have immediately in front of me, but one of Sam Worthington's previous movies. And he thought that he was really good. And then when he found out that he was cast in Avatar, he used that to pitch the studio, like, we should be using this guy. And the studio was like, oh, he's going to be leading this giant movie. Let me see if I can find what movie that was.
He'd only done a couple before then. It's like Rogue and Macbeth.
He had a lot of small things. He was in the movie Heart's War with Bruce Willis. He was in Thunderstruck, which was a movie about AC/DC, and the rise of AC/DC, and he played one of the band members. He was, he was in some small things. He was in a big production of Macbeth that was huge, but the big one for him was Terminator Salvation and Avatar. Yeah. And then suddenly he was kind of in everything. I remember him doing really well in The Debt, which is a fantastic thriller if you've never seen it. One of the big things that pushed him was actually one of his most consistent roles. He's reprised the role, I believe, 5 times now, as the character of Alex Mason from the Call of Duty Black Ops series.
That's right. Does the voice? Yeah. Wow. I remember that.
Numbers, Mason.
Yeah, I remember him because I did. It's funny. I was actually big into Call of Duty campaigns for like 3 or 4 years there, right around like I got sucked into the Modern Warfare, Black Ops, kind of right around then, like a lot of people did.
Yeah, same.
And I do remember being like, oh, hey, that's the guy from Avatar in there.
Yeah.
But he's in this movie.
Not the greatest leading man. He's in this movie, and he acts in this movie.
I will say he does bring more charisma than the poor lead actor that was in last week's episode.
Does he keep his mouth closed?
He keeps his mouth closed and actually manages to convey energy, like at least physical energy. I will say this about Sam Worthington: he is like physically there. He brings it physically. To like looking like he's trying, if that makes sense. Just he swings his sword with actually some purpose behind it.
In rewatching this and Wrath of the Titans, which we'll be doing in the near future, I put him almost in a category similar, not the same category, but very similar to Keanu Reeves, in that this guy is not a very good actor. I think that his best acting performance was in the movie The Debt, and in Avatar 2. I think that he actually did a really good job in Avatar 2. Way of Water. And but he's not just going to be an actor you can put in anything, and his best acting is done with his physicality.
Yeah.
Much like Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, we were talking about that, Keanu. And then when we did Frequency, we were talking about that with good old
Jim Caviezel.
Yeah, I would agree. So I would like to detour for like 1 minute to do a weird analogy that you're going to be like, really, on this podcast?
Do your analogy.
I want to do a sports analogy. I was thinking about this, and I'm not a big sports guy, but I have a friend who is like fanatical. And, when you watch like the NFL or the NBA or whatever, and the bad players, like they stand out because like, oh my gosh, like, are you even trying? Because you're comparing them to the best players in the world.
Yeah.
If those like average or below average players like went back to like a college team or played like a high school team, it would be embarrassing how much better they would be. Like it wouldn't even be fair. And I wonder sometimes with actors, when you compare them to the greats, you're comparing them to the greatest performance artists on the planet. And so it's easy to be like, well, compared to the good ones, he's very mediocre. But if you or I tried to, it would be really embarrassing.
What are you talking about?
So
My
anyway.
acting is top notch.
Anyways, I always try
Not
to,
Shatner-esque at all.
Yeah. We were actually just talking a little bit before we started recording about, trying to be objective and fair and not let, cultural things or, like you're trying to evaluate movies based on the art. It's like, it's easy to do the same thing with actors. You're trying to be fair to actors, but also like, not be overly, not praise them on, more than they deserve because you happen to just love their roles or how they present themselves in pop culture, and also not be overly mean because of, whatever. And I just, little segue over, I was just thinking about Sam Worthington and movies like this also, because as much as this is a super, average film, I think most of us, if we were to say, here's $1 million, here's $100 million, or what was this, 120, 140, somewhere around there. Go make Clash of the Titans.
170.
Okay. I'm guessing we wouldn't make as good of a movie as this. Just saying.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. 125.
Okay. Because I think it went up for Wrath. But anyways, it's just, and of course, a podcast such as ours is inherently about our opinions. But I think we do try to be somewhat objective and not be mean or overly gushing. I know certain movies I struggle to be overly gushing. But you know what I mean? Like being mean outside of like, no, this actually deserves it versus I just didn't like it kind of a thing.
Someday we will do the movie Gods of Egypt and you will see me be mean.
Well,
genuinely mean.
Certain movies deserve it. I'm not saying they don't. I'm just, I'd like to, I hope that we work for a balance of having fun and having a personality, but not being one of those, there's YouTubers all over the spectrum on this that just
hate fest.
Their whole thing is either being, this is amazing because it aligns with whatever, or I hate this because it aligns with whatever. So, anyways, that's it.
Okay.
Back to Clash of Titans.
Analogy, understandable. But at the same time, one of the things that's going around at the moment is an interesting interview with Josh Brolin about how there's a lot of bad actors out there who still have really successful careers.
Yes, there are. Yes, there are.
So in this case, I have no problem being mean to Sam Worthington. I think that he's probably a perfectly reasonable actor in a lot of ways, but at the same time, there's moments in here where he's fine, but there are some moments in here where he's genuinely just not good.
Yeah. I think for me, I watched this literally, the day after we watched last week's, and I was just like, I'm definitely more engaged by this just visually.
Oh heck yeah!
But I also, you're right. It's yeah. Anyways, continue, sir.
I'm kidding. You ready?
Why don't you hit us with a few sweet facts, and then we'll start watching this thing.
Hit you with the best shot. Okay, so yes, this is indeed Clash of the Titans, the remake from 2010, PG-13, 1 hour and 46 minutes. That is a full 13 minutes shorter than the last one. This will be our second movie being watched under director Louis Leterrier. He's French, written by Travis Beacham and Phil May and Matt Manfredi. And it stars, of course, Sam Worthington, Liam Neeson, Ralph Fiennes, not Ralph Fiennes, Ralph Fiennes, Gemma Ackerton, Alexa Davalos, Mads Mikkelsen, although not Mads Mikkelsen, Luke Evans, Liam Cunningham, Nicholas Hoult.
Yeah. Yeah, he has a very small
That's
but
good cast.
yeah. Well, I forget Evans. Which Evans is it? It's not Chris Evans. It's the other one.
Luke Evans.
Luke Evans. This is before he kind of exploded too, right? Because he was in one of the Fast and the Furiouses. He played a villain, and then
I
he
don't
was
think
in
he
one of
ever
the,
exploded.
well, he was. I mean, I remember him getting like he was the villain in like I said, one of the Fast and Furious movies. He was the villain, and he was in like
Yeah.
he was
So his
Gaston and Beauty and the Beast. I mean, he's not that
Gaston,
he's exploded,
fantastic.
but he's definitely had some big roles. I guess I'll put it that way.
Oh yeah, he has been in several movies that made over $1 billion, including Beauty and the Beast, Fast and Furious, I believe 7, or maybe 6.
Yeah.
And the Hobbit movies.
That's right. He was in the Hobbit movies. He was the
Mhm.
archer guy. What was his name?
Yes, he was Bard. Bard. the Bowman.
Yes. Yeah, he's it's funny. He's one of those actors who he's been in some big stuff. Well, like Sam Worthington, he's been in the two highest grossing films of all time. Not adjusted for inflation, by the way. But he's not somebody who I would call a particularly amazing actor.
That's
But he has
pretty much
what?
right on the money.
He's like a god in this, I think. He's one of Zeus's dudes.
Yes, he plays Apollo, which is
Oh.
rather interesting because the next year he ended up going on to play Zeus in another movie called, I believe, The Immortals.
Wow, that was Henry Cavill, right? Wasn't that like early Henry Cavill?
Yep.
I saw that in theaters. That was like a very Zack Snyder-esque, a lot of slow motion CGI stuff, right?
It was very much kind of like, hey, let's make another movie that's a lot like 300, but also
right.
really kind of esoteric and what's the word I'm looking for that's not esoteric?
I just remember a lot of
Uh,
half-dressed men
Artur.
moving in slow motion.
Yes, it's
But maybe
meant
that's
to be, like,
300.
artsy. It's both of them. But Luke
But more
Evans, I was
gold.
actually going to mention this as we're watching, but I'll mention it now. He said that Henry Cavill's physicality and level of fitness filming The Immortals almost made him quit acting.
Wow. I mean,
People
I
have
love Henry
strategies.
Cavill. So I like hearing nice things about Henry Cavill because I do like that man as an actor. And he seems like a genuinely kind of cool guy in real life too.
Seems like it. I
Yeah.
hope that he's not weird.
He probably is. That's the bummer. But you never know. Either way, let's get this sucker rolling. As usual, we encourage you to watch along with us. Not a super long one tonight, fortunately. But yeah,
All right, so we're ready to go?
we are ready to go. Gonna hit that play button in 3, 2, 1, go. So
And here we have the nice little opening.
Yeah.
The Warner Brothers.
I
forgot it was Warner Brothers.
I have a soft spot
Oh my
for
god,
Warner
that
Brothers.
explains so much. You see, I get that, but you're wrong.
Did I'm wrong for having a soft spot for Warner Brothers?
Yes, Warner Brothers mismanages and mishandles franchises
They
worse
do.
than anybody else in the entirety of the movie industry.
You're definitely not
They have-
wrong. They've just also made some of my favorite movies of all time, you know?
You see, I totally get that, and I understand completely. But think about it: Harry Potter, The Matrix, the Titans movies,
Mm.
the DC movies. These people, the Lord of the Rings franchise. These people just cannot make a franchise that is good more than like 3 movies, more than 2 movies even.
Aren't the Harry Potter films generally considered like solid throughout, or
Up until they decided to greenlight a prequel series.
well, yeah, but I mean like that series of 8 films is considered pretty solid by the. I mean, I'm neutral on Harry Potter, but like fans of it seem to like those 8 films, right?
It is still pretty solid.
Yeah.
But okay, we've already run into problems with the myth that ends up making very little sense for this story later.
Well, you were
Is
talking
that
about
Hades was nowhere in any of this in terms of the legend. This is people making Hades the bad guy because it's convenient. Hades was actually not much of a bad guy. He was very much a chill dude, very neutral in a lot of the myths.
Well, I think for the average Joe, you don't have to explain to them why Hades is bad. People just would assume Hades, the devil, bad, got it, and move on. You know, it's a real shortcut to villain. status in at least in
Never
pop
cr-
culture.
Yeah. He never created the Kraken in the comics, and the myth, the Cetus.
I mean, they drew
Um,
pictures back then. We call them comics, right?
yeah. Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, if you go
Sorry
watch
for any Greek
Unbreakable,
people.
then they'll tell you about how the myths were the early version of superheroes. So I'll take it.
Well, I do actually. It's interesting. We love superhero films, genre films. I do definitely subscribe to a certain level of comics and superheroes are kind of our modern, myths, our Greek and Roman
Yeah.
gods. I mean, there's definitely
I very much agree.
some truth to that, culturally, even though it's not a perfect one for one.
Yeah, I do agree with that.
So-
We have Gemma Acton here playing Io. Very. Those of you who might have heard the word Io before, it's one of Jupiter's more prevalent moons because Io was one of Zeus's lovers, which makes this extra weirder than it already is.
Because he's gonna do it with his stepmom at the end of this film.
Not his stepmom,
Not his
just
stepmom,
one
but
of
like-
his dad's lovers, who
Oh,
is
yeah.
also technically like his great grandmother.
Yes, but she's young and pretty in the film, and so it makes it okay.
It does. They're really Edward Cullening it.
Why are you okay? My brain. Pete Postle. How do you pronounce his last name?
Pete Postlewaite?
Wait. He is a great actor, rather. He's one of those guys that when he pops up in films, and he just gets a little bit role in the beginning of this, but he gives one of the best performances in this movie in the opening as the dad here. I mean, I always liked him in Dragonheart, and he's played some villains. He's got so much charisma. He's got a very distinct face, man, he is skinny in this role. But
I totally forgot that he was in Dragonheart.
yeah, he's like one of the main dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the guy following around
the
Dennis Quaid.
friar.
Yeah. Anyways, he's one of those actors that whenever he shows up, I'm just happy to see him, even if it's in bad movies.
Yeah, very true. And a lot of this early bit is really good. One of the people that I watched who was giving kind of a review of this were kind of upset that they spoil so quickly that Perseus is Zeus's son, and that they actually could have had like a good long wait of it throughout the movie until it's revealed. But this whole opening sequence with the fisherman dad and everything that happens with them is genuinely pretty darn good.
Yeah. I think a lot of it, honestly, is his performance. I think if you had just some whoever throwaway actor here, I think it would have been less. But also too, it's just ultimately, and we've talked about this plenty of times in so many big movies, it does come down to character. And if you have a character situation, a family dynamic, people can relate to this a little bit. Just struggling and family, and just a lot of primal human things in this opening that people will grab, and it's done in a way that's effective.
And it brings up this kind of almost like prayer boycott that ends up becoming very important to the sequel.
So
and
how does that? Okay, so you again, you don't remember this. Is that really part of any realistic, like somehow the gods were fueled by like human worship, and if they didn't worship, they could actually take power from the gods? Is that based in any kind of actual Greek mythology that's real?
It's not based in any type of Greek mythology that's real. It's based in actual sociology. Zeus no longer has any actual quote unquote power, like social power or anything like that, because people don't worship him anymore. He's now a mythological character. And that's something that has been popping up a lot in recent fiction, is the idea that gods are fueled not by some divine power source, but by the prayers of people. One of the things that made it really big was the Neil Gaiman novel American Gods, which is based very strongly around that concept, with the new gods of things like television and such appearing after people start worshiping and paying more attention to those than they do the ancient gods. That is an awful book, by the way. I don't recommend it to anybody. I think that it's gross and stupid. And ever since I read it, I've been saying that Neil Gaiman is a creep and a pervert. And time of recording, that is finally out and about, and people know it to be true. I was right, and you could tell because only somebody who's a creep and a pervert read a book like American Gods.
I will say that statue does not look like Liam Neeson very much.
Well, I mean, I doubt that what's his face is going to look like Jim Caviezel actually looks like Jesus.
Jesus. What's his face?
I was thinking Jim Caviezel, not Jesus.
Oh, yes. You're probably
what's his face was for Jim Caviezel. But yeah, you see right here, you have them toppling that statue of Zeus, which I don't know if a statue like that actually existed, but I've seen it enough in a number of other media that I wonder if it did.
I mean,
using this toppling.
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea of that exact one, but I mean, I 100% believe that many, many statues of Zeus did exist at some, in some form. He was a popular guy back in the day.
He was. I remember the video game Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and the island in which you begin on has that statue, and you can climb it and jump off of it and such.
Nice. Does it have a hay bale at the bottom?
Yes, it does.
I'd say that's Assassin's Creed.
Leaves.
Oh, is it leaves? I haven't played an Assassin's Creed game in a while.
They've expanded into leaves.
So, yeah, Ralph Fiennes, interesting. I mean, you have, he's been nominated for. I looked it up, 3 Academy Awards. Not won any, but he's got a Tony. He's got Golden Globes. I mean, he's a fine actor, and
he's Voldemort.
Yes, Voldemort. They have, this really good English actor kind of playing a throwaway role. Not a throwaway role, because it's very important to the plot as written. But he doesn't really get much to do other than just kind of look angry or, and speak in that low, whispery voice.
Yeah, I really hate that low, whispery voice.
The men will fear me. It's like, it's like a bad Emperor impression.
You see, this is where I think Sam Worthington does some of his best acting.
Yeah.
You see the death of his family, and it's just like the physicality. You see him like really straining. He looks intense as he's doing this.
Yeah.
And he looks good in his intensity. Funny thing, in terms of like costuming, like what he's wearing here, this tunic, belt, very simple, the boats. It's also supposed to be based after Greek, but it's actually heavily inspired all throughout the whole movie by Minoan and Cretan ancient garb and ruins and such.
Really? Okay. I did think when I was watching this again recently, I was like, hey, at least they let him wear a shirt.
Yes.
I love the whole like earth on the ground, like the little 3D map that they walk around in.
Right?
Yeah. Also, just it's an odd choice to do like the super, like little tiny lens flares on Liam Neeson's armor. It's just like it almost looks out of focus because they did so many. They went a little overkill on that.
I completely agree. I think that part of it is supposed to be like, look at his glory, look at how cool he is. This is also after the 2009 Star Trek, and maybe there was hey, JJ did this, maybe we can do this for gods. And like,
see, I'm just like get this guy a lozenge. Hey, there's a
lozenge.
Guy needs a. Oh, and there's like okay, so he is the guy there. He's Poseidon. Who's playing Poseidon? He's one of those actors that just appears as he's like an FBI villain in like 8 different movies. I swear.
Yes,
he's a bureaucrat.
I know exactly what you mean because he was also Stryker in the absolutely horrible 2008.
That's right.
X-Men Origins Wolverine film that almost killed the entire X-Men franchise.
Yeah, came after trying to pick up Brian Cox's great performance in 2. Yeah, but yeah, it's just it's it's weird, and like they kind of hunched over, and I get like you find out later he's putting on a show here, right? He's very much performing to lull Zeus into a false sense of like let me do some stuff and trust me and all that stuff.
It's Danny Hudson, by the way.
Danny Hudson.
He's
a perfectly fine actor, but he plays the same type of character a lot.
He does. But there's Luke Evans as Apollo, very small role.
Yep.
Apparently the gods had a lot more to do, and they cut the roles down significantly. One of them, even Hermes, is played by Alexander Siddig.
Really?
Which
From Deep
a lot
Space
of people
Nine?
might go, who's that? But Brian and I, that is
That's Dr. Bashir.
Bashir
He
from Deep Space Nine.
he's genuinely a good
Also
actor.
the angel Gabriel in the Nativity Story.
I've seen
And
him in a
he's in
couple.
Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I would say I've seen him in several things, and I loved him in DS9, the whole show. But he actually he's a solid actor in many of the things I've seen him since. But yeah, you can tell from the casting that they didn't cast nobodies to play gods, so they meant to do more. I totally believe that with those characters, because even Liam Neeson it barely gets stuff to do in this movie.
Yeah. It's also I think that the lens flare came very heavily from the 3D conversion, because I think that they wanted the lens flares to be in 3D, so it's almost like you could see them coming off of him.
Okay, is there a reason why we changed cities? We went. This is Argos instead of Joppa.
Because Argos is the city in which they was being threatened, and they needed him there quicker, so they didn't have to make a longer movie.
It's just shortcut. All right. I will say, they were able to, get people in here. This dude, the skinny Fear the Gods guy, who literally just is a plot device in this film.
Mm-hmm.
But this actor, he does. I have no idea who he is. Don't recognize him. But he definitely delivers an intense, ranty performance pretty well.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, it is a useful plot device. It does little things like that well. The problem is the plot doesn't keep consistent. We've had it that Hades is mad at Zeus for being banished, which Hades, I don't believe, was ever banished from Olympus in the myth. I might be wrong on that, but I don't think he was. Hades just mainly hung out in the underworld because he was very antisocial. But he he's sitting there, and why didn't he kill Sam Worthington right then when he could have? He would have. He knew who he was. Also, he apparently created the Kraken, as put in the opening, which makes no the Kraken, which the gods feared because it could kill the gods. So he somehow created this weapon that could kill gods and titans.
He just doesn't make any sense.
Odd.
Yeah. We also have here, we get introduced to Andromeda again, and I don't. It's odd to me that they sidelined, a pretty compelling female character from the original film to just replace her with a different female character and make Andromeda, barely a character in this film. I mean, she has one moment where she volunteers herself to save the city, I guess. They other than that, she basically's got nothing. And it's just one of those. It's from a writing point of view, it doesn't make sense to me because they just swapped in, a demigod, and not a demigod. What would Io be? She's not a god, but she's like.
Io's a goddess.
Well, she's not like a Zeus level goddess. She.
No,
but she was she just stabbed and died in the movie later on.
Well, yeah, because it's a movie.
Yeah. But I mean, if she is, she doesn't get any cool powers other than just she lived.
No, wait, Io
forever.
wasn't a goddess.
I
was totally wrong. She was a mortal.
Yeah. Okay, I thought that she was
just one of. She was one of Zeus's baby mamas.
Yeah. So she was gifted with she could never die, basically, right? Or at least no, not that not die. She doesn't age.
She think comics, not in the myth.
No. But I'm talking about in this film, they have a line where she's like, "I don't age, and I've just watched all my loved ones die," or something like that, right? Is that what I'm?
Yeah, I think she's just supposed to be cursed.
Yeah. But Mads Mikkelsen showed up here.
Yep.
And
his character's name is Draco.
Yeah. I do like him, actually. I feel like he's got a few good moments in this movie. Another
Well, he's Mads Mikkelsen.
He's-
He's in a lot of bad movies,
Yeah.
but he's never really bad in a movie.
No.
He's so fun. And I know that his name isn't pronounced Mads Mikkelsen, but I can't be bothered not to.
I do love that,
But
like,
you have
we live in a world here where, like, you literally, you say, you, like, blaspheme, and you, like, have a god show up and kill you within, like, a minute of saying it out loud. Like,
but they still want to defy the gods.
It makes me think that something like this hasn't happened in a long time. Because people do tend to remember queens getting, the life sucked out of them, literally.
Yeah.
I
Which
do love
again,
here that, like, Sam Worthington
Andromeda's
randomly
mother-
doesn't get sucked into this, swirling vortex of Hades. Like, he's fine, but all the soldiers randomly do. Like, only the soldiers.
Well, that does actually track with his character a little bit because he is a demigod.
Yeah.
And it shows in multiple places throughout this movie that he is much stronger than the average person. And he is stronger, and he just doesn't really know it yet.
Yeah.
Which is something I actually kind of like. Because he even says the whole interesting. Like,
Is
he
he
can
like-
tell.
He's like
he
Bruce
didn't get
Willis.
sucked in.
He's like Bruce Willis in Unbreakable. He just he doesn't realize how much he's got.
It's more like
I'm
got
teasing a little
the
bit with that, by the
Captain
way.
America super serum in him as a baby, and he just doesn't know it. He's just like, man, I can run fast.
You're specks of dust beneath my fingernails.
Yeah, he's too Voldemorty with his voice, but he even puts like another layer of rasp.
Was this 2000? Where was the Harry Potter franchise in 2010? It was like
Right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
I think this was before the Deathly Hallows. This was either before or after Half-Blood Prince.
Okay.
So yeah, it was a thing.
You'll have your chance.
But yeah,
Sorry.
Io's this weird,
Yeah.
like,
She's basically a stalker.
middleman. She's supposed to be like a spirit guide,
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
and then the reason that the relationship between her and Perseus is kind of thin is because it was all done in reshoots. It was supposed to be him having more interactions with Andromeda, and they would end up together like in the myth and the other movie, but the producers, the production company, didn't like it, and so they asked him to change it and put him with Gemma Arterton, because Gemma Arterton at the time they thought was going to be a much bigger actress. She was a Bond girl. She was about to lead another movie with Jeremy Renner. She was getting some stuff to herself, and so they were like, we want to be able to bring her back in the future because her name might have some clout.
Do you feel like the death of the Queen was a little bit, I mean, not glossed over, but like, he just killed the Queen and we didn't really get any reaction of that specifically from anybody else? I mean, just kind of general, like, he's here and it's scary. But
Yeah, in fact, to the point of where I was actually kind of looking for her, wondering if she was dead yet.
yeah, if she was just sitting there really old.
Mm-hmm. Which, again, that's not how she died in the myth, which they don't need to do it exactly, but I'm just saying for clarity's sake, she died by being accidentally exposed to the the severed head of Medusa, and she was turned to stone.
Really?
Yep. I mentioned it last week, too. Yeah, see? Siddig. Terrible hair. Oh my god.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I literally just, I watched it on my phone. Maybe that's why. I missed that was him. I feel bad now because he was one of my favorite shows of all time.
Yeah.
They basically, the one character trait that Perseus has, they just kind of introduced it, and we're gonna go through here, is that he's just, I'm gonna do it as a man. I don't want to act like a demigod. I'm kind of just, he's the he just wants so desperately to not be treated differently, and that's kind of his only character trait in this whole film.
It is, and it's even kind of inconsistent, which is another one of the things. Just the inconsistencies in these movies is like a big thing is that he refuses the gifts of the gods. So all that cool stuff that he had in the last movie, he's like, no, I'm not going to use it. I'm too cool.
Yeah.
And
Gave me this sword with no guard, which makes it kind of a bad design. But you know what? I'm not going to use it anyways. It's also a lightsaber because it, folds into its own hilt.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You don't love a good lightsaber.
All these guys
But
have like heavier eyeliner on than the girls do. You notice that?
that was actually very common
Was it?
in oh yeah. It was really big in Egypt, and like I said, this is heavily inspired by Cretan and Minoan, which are much closer to Egypt than Greece.
Mm.
And there's a lot of the people, especially the men, in a lot of the art and images and things like that, always had like really dark eyeliner,
Well,
and they've found some archaeological evidence of that as well.
okay. This just like made me think of it though. Like looking at that, that's part of the problem I think with Sam Worthington in this movie is that he looks like an Australian construction worker who was given a costume.
I can see that.
You know, he's just because he's got just like this haircut is like, you know, just a buzz cut, and he doesn't have any real noticeable makeup on. He's just kind of dirty. He's got the little scruff on his chin, you know, and he's just like a dude with a
Which I think was the point, because all these other guys, they're a little bit made up, they're a little bit produced, because they're like honor guards of the king and stuff like that, and he's just like fisherman, and I want to stay a fisherman,
Do you think
which
it
is
would
supposed
have?
to be his character arc.
Yeah. Do you think it would have helped if he had had longer hair, like a little more of kind of a ragged, like less perfectly cut hair?
I think it might have,
A
and
little
I know
more
that
scraggly.
was actually like that was the plan. They were going to have him in a wig through the beginning, and then he was going to cut his hair. But apparently, they just didn't think it looked good on his face.
He's got a very, I mean, he does have the hero. He's got, he's got the nice rectangle face with like the square jaw. I mean, he's got the jaw, but
Yeah,
he's a very like he's generically handsome, if that makes sense. Like he's handsome, but not like in a notable or standout way.
yeah, he's not superhero handsome, but he is, I think, what you could describe as like soldier handsome.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like I mean, he's not by any means bad looking, but anyways, so okay, here we got what was his name when he turned into like the alligator dude who was all pissed off. Last week.
Yes.
Gort and the G.
I almost said Cetos, but that's the name of the not kraken. Oh my gosh,
Now,
it's gone. What is the
Mm.
freaking name? But yeah, you have Zeus here with a mullet,
yeah.
seducing the wife of the king, and disguised when again it was a golden shower, golden rain in the
Not
thing.
that kind of golden shower.
Yeah, but
Sorry.
it's literally described in the thing.
I
Bird Zeus. I mean, he did turn into an eagle.
and I love that it's like I mean, I don't know if it's actually a bald eagle, but it sure looks like an American bald eagle.
Yeah, that I don't know.
It's like,
But Zeus's bird was the eagle. But yeah, so the mother of Perseus was always alive in the myth, because the thing is, Perseus was sent on this mission, and the whole Andromeda Kraken thing just kind of happened along the way. It wasn't actually part of his mission. And the person who sent him on the mission was the king of the island he was staying on after all this happened. And he sent Perseus on the mission specifically because he wanted to bang his mom. Like, that was a thing.
well, and I mean,
That's the reason why he was being sent.
well, the Greeks, along with, well, to be fair, all the ancient empires and people today, we're horny. What can you say? It gets into our
Sex is
stories.
the primary driving force of like pretty much our entire lives.
Yeah.
No matter what you do,
But
you can't escape it.
it's interesting, we were thinking about like, because we talked about last week, they should have, cut that movie down a little bit, tightened it up a little bit. This movie, I feel like they took that advice, it's, approximately 15 minutes shorter, but I feel like they cut in the wrong areas. They could have just cemented the plot better, given the characters a little more depth and nuance and actual character, but they just kind of cut out all the beginning part. What's that?
The plot's just nonsense.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, they do have some legitimately okay action scenes. The whole scorpion fight that comes up, is not bad.
A lot of people give the movie flack for being too CG, but I actually kind of disagree. I think that this is the type of movie that you want being CG, and the characters do interact with the CG decently well.
Yeah, and the effects work is perfectly acceptable. It's not like blow you away level, but like it's there's no glaringly like, wow, that's a rough shot. Like I can't think of anything that falls into that category.
No, I agree, but I actually almost disagree
Oh.
that there is some genuinely really good moments.
Yeah.
In terms of the
I forgot we
seeding
got
of this movie.
Davos also from Game of Thrones. That guy.
Yeah, Liam Cunningham.
Yeah. There's some good actors in this movie. Very
Yeah,
good
there's also
actors in
another
the
one
film.
of his buddies here who was like, I remember him from Les Miserables. He was, oh, I forget his name.
But like, so because
but
Game
he's
of
in the
Thrones started what, 11 or 12, something like that.
12.
12. Okay.
So this was before then.
Yeah.
So he's Sir Davos, the Onion Knight. He's a little bit older and a little bit fatter in
Yep.
Game of Thrones.
Then we got Lex Luthor.
Yep.
Okay.
But this guy here, he was an up and comer for a little
So-
while.
Am I crazy, or the shield design where you have the cutout? Wouldn't you want the cutout up towards your? I love this little Easter egg.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just leave it. I mean, it's so on the nose. It's so just like, wow, you didn't even try to be subtle about that. But it also kind of definitely made me chuckle. I'm glad we could just watch
Sam
the
Worthington
original one.
hated it.
Really?
Hated it. He was quoted on set as saying, "You can't keep the scene in the movie. This effing owl is going to destroy my entire career."
I don't think the owl's the one that did it. But I was gonna say, okay, so
Yeah.
the shield with the cutout, and I'm not by any
Mhm.
means like an armor or have like a lot of. I'm asking. I'm not sure. Wouldn't you want the cutout towards your shoulder so you have room to like kind of move, and you basically you're not gonna hit your own like neck and arm with the big round shield.
Well,
but
the
they
point
always
of
have,
the
like-
cutout in the shield was to make room for the spear to thrust.
Oh, that's right. See,
Mhm.
why I ask things out loud and risk embarrassing myself on the internet.
Yeah.
We have like these random hunters that show up, just a little. I mean, now these guys, they're kind of
comic
scoundrels,
Yeah.
but just a little flavor. Although what's funny is that they're not as visually distinct, because they all. I mean, I love. Sorry, his helmet sitting on his torches on his backpack. I do love that there's a little bit of realism to the idea that they're going to go for a long walk. They got some stuff with them. Too often you see like movies where soldiers set out with literally like nothing. They have their armor on, their shield, they're wearing their helmet, which would be crazy uncomfortable. And they're just like, we're going to go for like a week's march with no supplies and nothing.
Yeah. No, it's infuriating sometimes.
It's like, all right, at least we got a little bit going on here. Go ahead.
But one of the main issues that I do have with this movie is that they have their little like quasi Fellowship of the Ring, the Fellowship of the Kraken, and
I like it.
they're heading out to go be big damn heroes, and they're not visually distinct enough. Calibos, yeah, but this is supposed to be Perseus's stepdad, essentially.
Yeah, this was the king whose wife Zeus got with to have Perseus, right?
Mm-hmm. So that adds a little bit of extra relation to it. They still have somebody who's mean and disfigured to hunt Perseus.
He bites him. I mean,
Yeah.
he gets in there, gets a chunk. That's one way to fight, I guess.
Yeah.
And he even gets the doesn't his, I'm trying to remember. I like just watched this and I've already forgotten parts of it because parts of this movie are very forgettable. Doesn't he get his hand cut off and get like some kind of weapon hand in this movie also?
Yes, I believe so. I don't remember if he gets the weapon hand, but I distinctly remember the hand getting cut off.
Yeah, because it's right before the
because
scorpions.
his blood turns into the scorpions.
Yeah, that's right.
But here, you have this whole thing. Hades is growing stronger until he possesses his full power. But it's just like they've already established that he's like super powerful already.
Yeah.
He can't like take on Zeus directly, even though Zeus is weakening. He created the Kraken, which killed the Titans, the gods can't even defeat the Kraken. It's just there's this weird inconsistency to Hades. Maybe you could fix it in like more of a novelization.
I feel like there's a toothpaste ad in
It's
this right
really
here.
inconsistent.
Maybe some mouthwash.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm
No, I
just.
can
I'm sorry. That was very.
definitely
That just popped into my brain right there. I'm just like that.
No, that was gross.
That
was
had to
gross.
have smelled horrible.
Right? Like, okay, in this scene, we need you to just like get in his face and breathe really, really hard.
Yeah. Although the makeup job on this dude's head is pretty good.
Oh yeah, I agree. Like I said, the effects are fantastic. And I was saying, I wish that his companions were more visually distinct. They all just look a little bit too like one another, you know?
Yeah, it's just, well, you have, I feel like you get, Davos. I don't remember his name in this movie. I just call him Davos because that's how I know him as from.
I don't remember any of their names either. I mean,
Yeah.
you have Nicholas Hoult, you have Davos, you have
Yeah.
Marius from the 2003 Les Miserables.
But most of them are, kind of forgettable. And then, you have the hunters have their moments once or twice, and then once you get to the guys made out of bark. I know it's not bark, but this this is probably one of the few genuinely funny moments of this entire movie coming up with the flute or the recorder.
Yeah, stuff like this is good.
Yeah.
Stuff like this is what you need in a movie.
The look on his face is so just like, oh, can I see that? Oh, never mind. And then he pulls out another one. It's so good. It's just, and they get the reaction shots. Everybody else like, Nicholas Holt's like little sideways glance there, and it's like this is one of the few. These are real people for like 15 seconds there.
Yeah.
Oh, and
it's so strange looking.
The obligatory. I'm going to teach you how to sword fight in one 2-minute session.
Right. Like, oh, you have 10 days to stop the Kraken. I'm going to teach you to fight with a sword. But naturally, he's a demigod, so he's going to be a prodigy.
Yes. Left foot forward. And although the sword handling in this, I mean, I will say, is so much better. It was embarrassing at times to watch what's his face last week try to use the sword.
Yeah.
It was just so bad.
Now, this is another one of those things where you have these actors who are like actually trained with how to use a weapon. Like Mads Mikkelsen there. He is actually like a fencer. Very different from handling a Gladius or Gladius equivalent. Go ahead and call it what you want. It's not quite a Gladius, but it's close. I forget the exact name of the type of sword that it is.
I do, man. This movie was very. I mean, we're right in the transition point here. Lots of edits. Like there's rarely more than one move at a time before you get cut, and it's super exaggerated, really powerful. Like I'm not a trained fighter at all, but like he's telegraphing so hard as he's like flailing. Just it's the way it's shot. Like I have no doubt that he's perfectly good, but the way that was shot was so just like big exaggerated movements. Like every swing is like I'm trying to kill you, like with all my might. And they have to cut every time because it's kind of an absurd way to fight. There's not a lot of finesse or skill involved in it. And the opening, that little tiny opening bit where he's like fluid and kind of moving his sword around, it like looks good when he trips him. And then it transitions to this way over the top style of shooting action scenes that I find obnoxious.
Mm-hmm. There's a particular guy on YouTube that I like who goes over good versus bad action sequences in movies. And one of his things he says at the beginning of every single one is just like we don't want movies that is a bunch of quick cuts in order to hide actors who can't fight.
Well, and the problem is they use it sometimes to hide actors who can fight, which is like really frustrating.
Yeah, but it's very much a post-Bourne movie thing.
Yeah, this was
the shaky cam,
the peak of that style. Well, even our man Liam Neeson here, man, Taken 3 is like the famous 60 cuts or whatever to get over a fence, something like that. I mean, I'm exaggerating.
I think it's like 17.
Yeah, 17. It's like the famous example.
17 cuts.
I hate this sword, though. So I was talking at the beginning about trying to be objective. It's a stupid design. It would be a bad sword. There's no hilt on it. Like not a hilt. Sorry, there's no guard. It's just it looks like a video game prop.
It does.
I don't know. Sorry.
Part of it's the glow,
Yeah. And it's got the weird tanto, on the end. It's like just. I mean, I think that the idea of like it's like only he can use it is kind of cool, but sorry. Greek swords are pretty darn cool, but
Yeah, no,
I
it's
did,
pretty stupid.
did not like that.
Oh, you see this guy here on the left with the mohawk?
Yes. Well, not right
He
now.
is also in Game of Thrones. He is known as the Hound.
That's the Hound? How did I miss
the
that?
Hound?
Pegasus
know,
is
because he's
just
like nobody.
randomly showing up here. Be like, yep. Just to make sure you know
Well-
they exist before they're needed later in the movie.
This is supposed to be the gods showering him with gifts,
Oh,
but he doesn't want.
The
Mhm.
Pegasuses are gifts from God. And we got the black one. You know, it's special.
From Daddy God.
Ah.
Ooh, it's the opposite of albinism. Which there is a word for that. Melanism, I think.
Mm.
Melanism, maybe. But yeah, the actor who we're talking about is named Rory McCann.
He's taken
And-
over in the Ahsoka, right? For
That
the late
Yep,
Ray Stevens.
yep. Ray Stevenson died after making Ahsoka season 1, but they need somebody big and bold with gravitas because the character is still going to be really important and they can't just kill him off screen. So they have hired Rory McCann to take over, and I think that he is an excellent choice. I don't think anybody will be as good as Ray Stevenson for Baylan Skoll. Fantastic, like my favorite part of the Ahsoka series. But solid choice.
Yeah.
But again, this was before Game of Thrones, so nobody knew who Rory McCann was outside of anybody who saw what is that movie? Hot Fuzz. Yarp.
Oh my gosh, he
You know?
was in that. I love Hot Fuzz. I forgot that he was in that.
You forgot that he was the Yarp guy?
I know. Oh, see, these guys. These guys
Yeah.
are gonna die.
See? There he
Oh,
is.
right
Look
there.
at him.
Yeah, he just
He's
okay.
so young.
He is young. He dies immediately.
Yarp.
The Pegasus just like took off. Just like, nope.
Yep.
Oh man, that
Oh,
dude,
man.
that's a death right there.
Yeah. He got bisected.
Yeah. Yeesh. I mean, this guy does go beast mode hard here. Now this this roll down the hill. If he wasn't a demigod, that'd be brutal. That's like,
Yeah.
oh man.
It's like, but yeah, see stuff like this, that little bit of slow mo there. I like that. I like that
Yeah.
style. There are too many quick cuts in this action, but there's a lot of stuff in it that I really like. I like this feel.
Oh man.
It's dirty. It's messy. The makeup's good. I hate that kick.
It's
The
got
double kick is one of those things in movies that, I'll give it to Captain America, but that's about it.
Well, there's the push kick, the one good one-handed push kick. But
One-handed?
no, sorry, one-legged. There we go. He lost his hand.
Yeah.
I
And, like,
did
he's-
like the point though of that kick of like the guy doesn't even move. Like it's very, what's this guy, probably 180 pounds.
Yeah.
Not even moving a guy. It definitely shows that he's a force. But yeah, I mean, it's a weird action scene because part of it is like not bad, like you said, a little bit of slow motion, a little bit of a yeesh.
There's an intensity to it. The music
Yeah.
is good as well.
And it is
I
like
like
there's
it.
dust being kicked up. But yeah, it's also just odd. I do like, I do think when the scorpions come in here though, they're pretty effective. The this whole
Yeah.
it's again these it's hard to tell these guys apart. You've said that before, but it just becomes a lot of similar looking profiles, just kind of swinging sticks and swords around.
Yeah. Because it's just like, I get that they're trying to be like uniform and they're all part of the same unit, but you need things that make them stand apart. And they don't do that
Yeah,
well.
especially from a distance.
Mickelson, because Mickelson looks like Mickelson. He has a very distinct look to him. But as you're moving fast, I can't tell Nicholas Holt from Other Pretty Boy.
I
What
do
about it?
I did appreciate the fact that like the hunters, they kind of
Mhm.
have like they would be a little more akin to fighting oddball stuff like this. They kind of had a little moment there. It was a nice little moment. But then we got
Even
the
though they
scorpions.
bring up things like the Nemean lion and stuff like that, which are killed by Hercules generation after this, like blowhards. They're all lying.
Are you happy now? I generally speaking here, the scorpions I think look pretty good, honestly.
Yeah. This is one of those things where people kind of give this movie a lot of flack for the overuse of CG, and I think that they look good. I think this action sequence is pretty good. I remember when the trailer for this movie came out and they showed those big scorpions, and I'm like, I haven't seen anything like this before. And I think it's genuinely a highlight of the movie.
Yeah.
And I think it deserves a little bit more appreciation for that this specific sequence. But yeah, there goes this guy. I don't think this is one of our main ones. He's just kind of there. But I actually like that scene. You know, oh, okay, here's a dead guy. And it goes into a little bit of slow-mo. It's a lot of CG.
This
but
is
you can still see the guy's face. And super gross.
That's super gross. But at the same time, it was a little bit of like a Nickelodeon style, like,
Yeah.
like slime. Man, the double
that.
tap, the double tap.
Uh-huh.
There definitely is.
It's
The beats have intensity, like, and the hits. That is one thing too. When you're gonna have a fight like this, the hits need to feel like they have impact, and they definitely get that part right.
It does well. And like that right there, you know he's a demigod, so he can take that. But the rest of these guys, they're not demigods. I hate the sword spin.
Well, yeah, you got to do that little flair. It's like a requirement.
Like it makes sense in movies like Gladiator because they're trying to do the whole like
they're entertainers.
Gladiator,
Yeah, I mean, like your job is to entertain. Are you not entertained?
Which these are actors and their job is to entertain, but I don't find the sword spin entertaining.
Well, it also doesn't fit with his character because his character is all about no nonsense.
Yeah. What was the movie that she was in? Oh, Prince of Persia: Sands of Time.
Forgot all about that movie.
You should. Well, actually, it's not as bad as you might think, one might remember, but it's still not good.
I don't remember it being bad. I remember it kind of like this movie, just being unmemorable.
And it didn't follow the game because for some reason video game movies have this need to be like, I don't know.
This is the worst throw ever, by the way. That right there. Oh my gosh. Sorry. Throwing a spear like that. I don't like that shot.
No, it's a bad shot. It was made for 3D.
Oh, that's right.
3D reshoots.
Yeah. I appreciate the detail of he like got the spear kind of at an angle when he started it, like to get underneath the armor, the carapace. Is it carapace? Is that the right word? Carapace?
Carapace.
Carapace.
Yeah, carapace.
Just throws her.
Okay, the one that always threw me off was the word chitin, because chitin would work as well, because it looks like chitin or chitin.
I did not like this. I've never liked these kind of. It makes no sense how, like, the connection between him being charged and the impact, and then all of a sudden, like, and it's just one of those, like, it's a cheap trick to me to be like, get your hero moment in a way that if you think about it, doesn't make sense in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Although they did transfer, like the physical, the practical there all of a sudden was, kind of a nice transition.
Yeah, there were aspects of it. I don't hate it as much as you do. I'm just not the biggest fan of it.
It's just a cliche that I find annoying. I don't hate it. It's just obnoxious as a cliche to me.
The things, it has a softer underbelly. It landed on the demigod, and he's able to tear his way out. It adds a moment of levity.
Those are big scorpions.
What I really don't like is when you have these moments where they're up against insurmountable odds, and they're just gonna get saved.
Yep.
Suddenly.
Now would
Jin?
Yes. Now, okay.
What the heck are Jin doing here?
I know nothing about these creatures. Can you please tell me a little bit about these creatures?
Okay, Jin, Jinai, Genie. These are Middle Eastern folklore, spirits of the desert who grant wishes that are also curses. Like, they don't belong in Greece or wherever this is supposed to be, if it's anywhere similar to, ooh, that's gross.
Yeah. They finally caught up with him. He is a little.
Yeah.
You think his adrenaline was keeping it at bay or something like that? That like the slow motion shaking, I think, was like, all right. Got slow motion shaking and the spinny cam. So, you know.
Mhm. Venom.
Yee.
I like that they got it correctly. It's Venom because he was bitten, so
Yeah.
it is Venom. It's not poison. It's just like, bruh, do it.
Just,
I do kind of like that.
oh, the other guy starts praying. Like, I'm going to pray.
It's like a funny little scene,
It
you
is.
know?
Like, dude, you're going to die.
He's just like, fine, whatever.
This is like, okay, so we've like, you almost, I think they just had to remind you Andromeda was even in this movie.
Yeah, they had to make her a character. This actress has not been in a lot, but she's always been memorable for me.
I
When she is
can't
in
think
good
of another
things.
movie of hers, but you got one in mind?
Well, she wasn't in a lot of movies, but she's been in a lot of TV shows. Her name is Alexa Davalos, and like she was in Chronicles of Riddick. She was in a movie from 2008 called Defiance that I recall. That was intense, but she hasn't done a lot, like I said. But I remember seeing her in the TV show Angel back in the day. She had a small recurring role on Angel. But she was in the Punisher TV series for a couple of episodes, and then she was in this show called The Man in the High Castle, which was an Amazon original show. In fact, I think it was their first original. And
Based on
it
the
was
Philip
about
K.
if
Dick?
the Nazis had won. Yeah, if the Nazis had won World War II. And then she's also in just this FBI show. She's the lead on that, which is unremarkable. But she was really good in The Man in the High Castle.
Yeah. So this... Yeah, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Nothing.
I was
just
gonna
think
say-
she's pretty.
Yeah.
She's good.
This guy is intense. I have no idea who this guy is, but he gives it his all. Like he knows, like, hey, this is probably his first big movie. He's like, I'm just going for it.
Yeah.
Now, did they do the
They
coins?
have that,
They did the coins on the
they did.
eyes. Was that a thing in Greek?
the bribe for the ferryman.
To
You
get him.
have to you have to pay the boatman. It's very important.
I love here that he uses his cloak to like wipe his hands. He's like, I'm gonna grab your tunic and just like dry my hands here.
Yeah.
Comes in a second here. Yeah, there, he grabs it. He's like, goes to the wide shot. Like, thanks.
Is it supposed to be his son?
I can't tell. I mean, I guess it maybe could have been, but I think it's more just an older veteran, versus a young pup kind of a thing.
Yeah. True. I'm trying to find if that crazy man has a if he's like been in anything else.
So here we got, the scene, the big misunderstanding scene to get like kind of the face off coming up here. But he's got, the blue fire.
Yeah. Again, it's just like he's a djinn, and I don't know why he's in this. Is he a bug? Is he a tree? Like, there's something buggish about him, but there's also something kind of Groot-ish about him.
He's also like quite formidable in this fight all of a sudden.
Yeah. I don't dislike the character in practice. I just think it's a really weird choice. Like, why is he here? What is his purpose? Other than to be like mysterious magic man to waste budget.
Yeah. How many times in this movie do they have the close-up shot of Mads pulling the twin daggers out of like his, his belt sheath in the small of his back? They really like that shot. I think they do it like, yeah. And I know they do it in the Medusa fight again. And, doesn't do it after that, obviously. But, they really enjoy that shot.
Yeah.
I'm all better
There's certain shots of that. Like, I recently watched Thor Ragnarok, right? And in that they have Thor, Hela, and Loki all do the same like move with dual weapons. Like you could just tell that the director really liked how that move looked and was like, you know what? The Odin family does this.
Are you saying that Taika Waititi likes certain things and does them over and over again?
Interestingly enough, I think so.
They do find a couple
characters weirdly gay.
I do. This scene I like. I like again this they give this scene of just like the idea of just you are a selfish prick, basically.
And he is.
He is. Oh yeah, no, it's the idea of like your pride is more important than like the idea of like you would rather have all these guys die. I mean, like this is. I think the movie actually gets genuinely like serious and deep for like a second here.
Yeah.
Although Sam Worthington's character continues to just stay very flat. But Mads, I'm just gonna keep calling him Mads because I don't know what his character's name is. He's
Pyro.
he's good.
No, Draco. Draco. Sorry.
But he's good.
Like Malfoy. You know, this movie has a lot of Harry Potter people in it now that I think about it.
Yeah.
Oh, and a lot of James Bond people. Did you think about that?
Who else?
mean, Mads Mikkelsen.
Yeah.
Gemma Ackerton.
Oh, that's
and
right.
Ralph Fiennes.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Wow.
Yeah, Ralph Fiennes as M was great.
He was good. Now we got the Scorpion Shield. Now we're riding Scorpions. I think they just like the design so much, and they probably put a lot of work into the CG model. So they're like, we need to use this thing more.
Oh, heck yeah. I mean, I would. Look at that thing. It's badass.
Yeah.
Scorpions are cool, dude.
And strangely enough, not used as fantasy threats very often.
Well, I think that they're a little bit difficult to... I think that they're probably just a little bit difficult to render and figure out how to move correctly, because spiders are something that we've studied as horror things for a really long time, and scorpions less so.
Yeah.
So I think that we have less experience modeling and using scorpions in interesting ways, but I think that they're much more visually dynamic. I don't think that they impose as much fear as spiders, while also still having the potential to. I think they should be used more in fantasy stuff, because they're cool. I mean, look at these things.
Who are the guys who are like, we're taking the camels? I'm just wondering.
Oh,
just
the people with heavy duty arachnophobia. Though I don't know if they're considered arachnids. They do have 8 limbs.
Yeah, if you count the pinchers.
Yeah.
I do appreciate that when the hunters were just like, yeah, heck yeah, this is awesome. Let's go, versus the soldiers who were like, no. It's just
right.
Yeah, I wish they had. Yeah, they could have. I mean, I'm trying to be fair here. They do have multiple scenes where they show these guys interacting. They have this. They have the scene that we just had. They have the scene with the flute. They do have. I mean, it's not like the movie doesn't do any. There are definitely action movies that are worse when it comes to just the absolute. They're just cardboard cutouts of characters. They have nothing. Although, man, we go through I don't think they go for like 4 days, but they go through quite a few climates on the way here. We got the desert, we got the mountains, we got like the rainforest they were in at the very beginning where they had the fight with the dude. But not a rainforest. I mean, like,
where are they? California? It was a forest. It was a thing.
Yeah, because it definitely was. And then here we've got this type of rock. I mean, this is a very distinct look.
This quarry has actually been used in several other movies. I can't remember all of them, but I remember at least one of them was Willow. This is like a notable quarry. Oh, Street Fighter, the original Street Fighter, and one of the Mortal Kombat movies, I think.
I can believe that.
Yeah, but okay, she's an actress where I constantly want to say, "Close your mouth."
Yeah, she does.
She always has her mouth a little bit open.
Yeah.
But this is a practical place. I think it's really awesome. And then suddenly it's not practical, but I believe that is up there, and I like that.
Yeah. This whole the hand thing is cool. I mean, this is a cool like set. It looks like they built this too. This like hand.
Yeah.
The witches are just chilling up here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I do like it where we see it here in a minute when we see the eye. It's like literally just like a straight up like Neversoft eye.
Neversoft Eye?
The game company.
Know what that is.
Oh, it's a game company that their logo is a big eyeball. It looks very similar.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think they made the Tony Hawk games back in the day.
That sounds right. I do kind of like these designs. I like that they are actually eyeless.
Yeah, totally covering from the nose up.
Gemma Ackerton is really pretty though.
These witches are not.
What can I say? brunettes with brown eyes. It's almost like I have a type. Weirdly touchy.
Yeah.
Did you ever play The Witcher 3?
Just parts. It's one of those games I meant to get back to, but not very much. No.
They have these 3 witches that are just disgusting beyond all measure. And I don't know, these guys kind of give me that vibe.
Yeah. When we have when they kind of go, they start, fighting a little bit. I do.
Mm-hmm.
I think generally this sequence is pretty good. There's enough little tension. The witches are definitely creepy and are a threat. And when this whole sequence where all of a sudden, like, yeah, these witches are a little crazy. If you let them get too close, they will be a problem.
It's also the quick cut thing.
Yeah. I mean,
a little too much quick cutting.
Yeah, the way it's shot has some little work, but I think just the way the sequence plays out, I think is fine.
I like that shot. I like Lewis. One of the things in this movie that I like, there are occasionally really interesting camera shots. Like that one right there. It was like low. It was a dolly shot, obviously, but it went up and it went down and a little bit around, and but it's kind of like focusing on. Anything of flesh is killed. That's
not the way to describe it, right?
I mean, I think that it's a way, like any creature that's able to see,
Yeah.
that she's able to see, or like meet their eyes, I think is supposed to be the thing. I swear I've seen something else where they were threatening her, the eye, and I can't remember what it was. Was it the original Hercules?
I'm not
sure. The animated Hercules, I mean?
I haven't seen the movie in so long.
Oh, great one. Okay, this right here, your journey doesn't end well, and they prophesy his death. It never comes up again. No, he doesn't die. He doesn't have one of those, like...
He doesn't even come close.
Fake out deaths. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he doesn't... Yeah, he's never... You never really worry about him. That is actually one thing that this movie doesn't sell well, that there's really any chance of him not succeeding, if that makes sense. And I mean, most action films, the guy's going to triumph, but they don't really ever put him in a situation where you're like, ooh, how is he going to get out of this?
Well, I understand that, but at the same time, there is also still an understanding in even like the modern cultural ethos that Greek stories don't always end well for the heroes.
Yeah.
So I think that this does kind of create a little bit of a question for people of, is this going to end like a Greek tragedy? Like, and I could see them trying to use that, but it never comes up again. Like, why did they even leave it in the movie?
Daddy.
Daddy.
You kind of forgot about Liam Neeson for a little while in this movie, too. Like, oh, that's right. He's in this.
And this is one of those things where this is very much a Greek myth thing. You'll actually see it in a bunch of modern fantasy books and such. I think specifically of Patrick Rothfuss's The Name of the Wind series. There's a lot of legends and stories about characters that they meet as beggars and tinkers on the road, and that actually comes a lot from stories of Odin and Zeus and such, where the hero of the story will meet an old beggar on the road and do something nice for them, and it turns out to be a god, and they were testing them. And so this is a little bit of a reference to that type of tale, and I do appreciate that.
We're talking to Zeus.
Yeah, talking to Zeus, he just had that, you created man. Zeus didn't create men, like Prometheus created man. Zeus created this, like, perfect version of man, had, like, 4 arms and did no wrong, and they were almost like his mindless slaves, and then it's almost like a reverse of the Lucifer story, almost, and, like, Prometheus gave them fire and turned them into actual, like, beings of their own.
Do you think this is a little bit of all of a sudden he's taking something, after all this talk and speak about, not going to get their help, use their help, and then he's like, all right, I'll keep the coin, though.
Several people online said exactly that. Like, oh, suddenly his character is like accepting help from the gods. I think it's supposed to be a little bit more of a what do you call it? I think it's supposed to be character development. Like, he's met his dad. Maybe he's like a little bit more open to being godly now. You know, he's feeling more divine, and he's willing to accept help now that he something. So,
Maybe
I don't know. It's weird.
he gets an upgrade here.
It's
It's like a video game.
Mhm.
The higher quality. It's a rare higher quality item. A rare higher quality item.
It's a yeah, I guess rare is the best way to put it.
Well, they even like said it like in the dialogue. The way they even like presented the shield and talked about it, it sounded like a line of a video game.
It really did, didn't it? This movie is kind of video game, isn't it?
A little bit.
Not horrible about it, but video gamey nonetheless.
All right. Here's the final group. Gonna go against Medusa.
Dun dun dun. Which means you know that quite a few of them are about to get stoned.
Well, we're down to the actors who have a career outside of this movie, and then like one other guy.
Do they even like? Do any of them survive?
No,
other than Sam Worthington.
None of them.
Yeah,
and yeah, this is
I
it.
forgot that Nicholas Hoult died.
They kill everybody.
Everybody.
I do appreciate that they tease he's still like there.
Who?
His the dude who bit his elbow.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Just like so you don't forget when he does kind of pop out of nowhere a little bit. I love that like the underworld is just like a cave in a volcano.
I mean, if you're gonna put an underworld, where else are you gonna put it?
That is
volcano. It needs to be properly epic.
It does.
I mean, where are you gonna put it in like the back room of a Target?
I mean, it's pretty. It's not too far away.
I worked in the back room of a Target. It's not too far off.
He volunteers. I do like that he gets those little moments of just like levity.
He's got that to him in all the movies that I've seen him in, because I've seen him in a few now. The particular actor, the Liam Cunningham, and he's always got something that's a little funny to him.
Yeah, even in Game of Thrones, he had the occasional kind of like dad joke moment almost.
Yeah, exactly.
Not quite dad joke, but
stuff that I've seen him in, because I know that I've seen those things.
Yeah. Here's another. This is very 3D here, right?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
This has got to be like just for the 3D conversion.
Yeah.
For some weird reason, I always mix up that one actor that I just mentioned, Liam Cunningham. I constantly think, was he Theoden? But no, he was not. He was not Theoden.
No. It's creepy. The whole like, the guy is towing the boat. Like yeah. The whole like barge. Yeah. I did find like the rowboat with the skeleton on the back a little bit charming, honestly. Although it would have felt a little out of place in this film, I feel like.
Yeah, it would have been. Did you ever play the game? Dante's Inferno. It was like a God of War ripoff, but had its own very distinct personality.
I think that's one of those games I played like the intro to, like on a Game Pass subscription or something like that, and never did more than that.
It had some interesting things to it, but they have Charon and the thing, the boat.
Okay.
But yeah, see, this is that story I was telling you about last week, where the newer versions of the Medusa story, specifically told in the later Roman period, a massive change to the kind of established story, where they change her from just one of these Gorgonite monsters to now being a rape victim that was turned into stone that was turned into this evil creature by a vengeful god. And that's kind of like the accepted narrative today because it's more dramatic and creates more of a victimhood for her, even though it was like, I think last week I compared it to Spaceballs, where it's almost like if you were remembering Darth Vader as a comedic character because of Dark Helmet. It's just it's a really weird thing. Like I get that people will latch onto their kind of favored version of a story, and that's very much what the Medusa thing is because it creates this picture of like the victimhood of women in the ancient world, which there's a lot of validity to that, but it's not what the story was for so long.
This is such a weird attempt to be sexy. This whole sequence, like, oh, I left my cloak here, and we're gonna like chase each other in the dark, and I'm teaching you about Medusa, but we're also gonna totally get to, I get that they're like trying to do two things at once here. They're trying to like tell you about Medusa. They're trying to telegraph a little bit. They're trying to, make it more plausible that he, is able to defeat her. While at the same time, they're almost like, oh, that's right. We need these characters to have chemistry, so we're going to give them a scene that, tells the audience. It doesn't, just tells the audience these characters are supposed to have chemistry. It doesn't show them they actually have chemistry. It just tells you they're supposed to have chemistry.
Yeah. Again, I know that there's a lot of it that was kind of studio mandated reshoots that they want him with Io. So given that there's no other actors in this scene, right? And it's contained in this kind of smaller set in the bow of the ship. So I think that this was a reshoot in order to create more chemistry between the characters.
Yeah. Because, the way they shot that could have been taken from something else.
I mean, or they had him back. You never know. Reshoots are weird, but
yeah.
But
it's just it feels like the movie paused for a second so they could do that sequence, and then now we're back to the film.
Yeah, which is what I believe. That it is what they believe because it is what I programmed to believe. But that's what I choose to, how I choose to think about it, because I think that's probably what it was.
Interesting that they all of a sudden kind of have this moment here that's like I'm assuming they're supposed to be connecting. I mean, not assuming. Obviously, they're supposed to be kind of connecting here. But it feels like a little forced bit of something here. And I don't know entirely why. Maybe it's just because Mads' character all of a sudden kind of opening up to him. I don't know. It just struck me as like again that the crossing, everything happening in that crossing just seems odd. It's just a little out of. Yeah, go ahead.
I totally get you, because it very much was a little bit like they're trying to create pathos for a character that's about to die. I think that he represents this is supposed to be kind of a like all of these hero stories is a little bit of the classic monomyth hero's journey, and Mads there is supposed to be his Obi-Wan,
Yeah,
it's supposed to be his mentor, and the mentor always dies, but you need to make that relationship important. You've seen him as a teacher, you've seen him as an advisor, and now you get that thing into his that glimpse into his past and his tragedy, which makes some sense because you need if I was writing it, because that's the way that I always approach these things, and you wanted to have this character and you wanted him to be more relatable, and they're literally paddling their way through hell and the river Styx, he's going to be thinking about death and loss and the deaths in his life and the things that he's lost. So it makes sense that if he's going to talk about like a dead daughter, he's going to talk about it now. But its sole purpose is to establish a little bit of pathos and character for, those who are about to die.
Yeah. This sequence is interesting because I feel like there's, well, kind of like with the Scorpion sequence, I think there's parts of this sequence that are pretty good, but parts of it are also just a little clunky.
I agree. I think
again, he gets the little joke here. He's the His one last little joke.
Mm.
Uh,
Like Mickelson is his death is not my favorite. I just don't really like the way that it's shot. And I think that it was actually one of those 3D conversion things where the way that the film actually looks worse because they wanted to make it 3D-ish. But I like the set. I
It-
like the design.
yeah.
It looks like a genuinely upgraded version of the other version.
The,
But yeah.
he's not using. Sorry, tiny bit of that. I mean, I know he's a demigod.
Mm,
Oh, okay.
mm.
It's like in a crack. It was just
Yeah.
odd. So for a second there, I was like, did he drive his sword into a stone pillar? Like a Greek bronze sword? Like just a regular old, like that's not how that works. But no, it's like
Yeah.
wedged into a crack, I see. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, they've got Mickelson. He's been shot. They killed, nice older funny guy. They didn't really give him a moment where you could tell that it was him that was dying, which is a little odd to me. Makes it a little bit harder to follow. And it was kind of strange that they have him die in a Medusa situation by having him fall into a pit.
They did
Like-
get shot with an arrow first. Because if you go back and look at it,
Oh,
I'm pretty.
Max got shot with the arrow.
No, I think they both did. I think there was 2 shots that happened.
Oh wow,
I'm-
Medusa's got some skills.
Yeah, I think so, but I also could be wrong. But here we go.
Mm.
Nicholas Holt.
But that's what she's doing, hanging out all day.
Yeah.
And once again, they put a rattle on her, even though there's no rattlesnakes in Greece.
No, she just would have had a smooth, powerful tail. Ah!
And the first to get stoned. It's a good effect. I like the stoning effect. The stoning effect. I like the effect of being turned to stone. I think it's good.
I also appreciate the fact that the clothes don't change, just like the flesh, basically.
Yes,
This though,
agreed.
this sequence, because you do feel bad for this guy, like just closing his eyes and blindly just kind of flailing. It's just he opens his eyes there, but just like you do feel for this guy.
Yeah, because you've already established throughout this whole thing, he's the newbie, he's the young guy. And, like, his best friend just died, his mentor just died, he's having a real rough day.
Yeah.
And you kind of think that maybe he deserves a little bit better, but at the same time, his function is there to die.
How do you feel about Medusa's? Her face look a little bit plasticky to you?
She does, and I genuinely think that her face was altered later in production to be prettier.
Because it's
I think that she was.
Granted, this is 2009, 10 when they were doing the effects work. Faces were still a work in progress. I mean, Avatar its faces were so good, and that was like a big deal. But James Cameron already spent 10 years and $300 million, whatever, making that movie. So I do think that part of it's that we're kind of right on the cusp of really good CG faces. But it also, maybe it was rushed, maybe like you said, it was tweaked or something here. But it's a lack of texture on her actual face. Like the rest of her body's not horrible, but her humanish, now I say human, I know it's not entirely human, skin is just missing a little bit.
Snakish. No, that's exactly it.
So
this did kind of.
Yeah, so he doesn't.
Yeah.
So how come it didn't work on him? He's truly not alive, but like the Kraken will work on the Kraken, but not him.
I think so, because they did specify living flesh, and I think maybe he's supposed to be undead of some kind, where the Kraken is not
How is
undead.
the inside of a scorpion hide shiny?
I don't know, because the legend says that he used a mirrored shield, and they wanted to keep that up. But I mean, if it's like stony, we don't know if it's like a truly. We don't know if it's like a true carapace or not, or if it's maybe made of stone. It did come out of those rocks. Maybe
Yeah.
it's made of stone. You can polish stone into a mirror.
For
I'm just
last,
grasping at straws.
Yeah. for last words, I do feel like it wasn't a bad one. Let them know that men
What did he
did
say?
this.
I was talking over it.
No, that's right. Let them know that men did this.
And it fits with the theme that they're going for in the movie. Because it was always gods, that slew the creatures and demigods.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just definitely a bit of the uncanny valley going on there.
Yeah. I do like that death, though. I like that scene of the head rolling. I think that was done really well.
I always thought it'd be funny if, knocked him over here. Dragged him in. Whoops.
Right.
Movie's over.
And they do have that, kind of like you cut the head off a snake and it's still going for a little while. And I like that they kind of had that in there.
Oh yeah, yeah. So that right there though, that he had that kind of jump spinny sword slash move, and then he gets one here also in this fight coming up, and where they kind of take his fighting and they elevate it to to the Matrixy style fighting. Yeah, see, he's got the sword hand now.
Okay, he does have a sword hand, and she was in like French girl pose there on the rock, and she's just like, I know all your friends died, so I'm gonna lay here in this pose seductively.
My knee just hurt. Sorry.
Yeah, that's a rough one.
Ooh, just punched him right in the face.
I don't like the shield spin. The shield spin's weird.
Yeah.
Get your lightsaber, man.
It is time to get over your pride.
Yep.
Yeah, see here we got this, the whole I just did a front flip over you
I hate it.
And another spinny jump off the rock. I do not like this fight.
Like there's moments of it I like, but I hate I get that they're trying to make it like, okay, he is a true demigod now, and this is his big transformation, his coming out party.
There's a lot of flips and a lot of flips and a lot of sword spinning.
I hate flips.
Yeah. What do you think of this though? Just that it heals him for like a second. Is it just that it cleanses Hades' influence out of him or something? But
I think so. Yeah.
But he initially was disfigured by taking all the lightning into the sword, right? In the flashback.
Yeah, and he hates Zeus, and so I think that. But he's also empowered by Hades. So this is what I'm talking about with the inconsistencies in the stories. Yeah. It doesn't make sense. That is a good line for that character to deliver if the story around the character made more sense.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't work for me at all in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
It's just like she spent a life for that long. Was she just avoiding dying? Is that what she's been doing?
Yeah, if it's just that she didn't age, but she's managed to avoid, getting killed.
Yeah.
For a long time. The look on his face right there, too. Okay, sorry. It was kind of a weird, it's kind of like earnest, I don't know. He's half smirking. It's weird.
It was like pursed lips in a strange way.
It's just an odd acting choice.
Yeah, the editor was like, I don't know which of his facial reactions to put here, so that one will do. He looks sad-ish.
Now, I know that they did technically have the scene with, Pegasus, but it is just very all right, here you go. Here's your solution.
It's okay, you see, you have now accepted your role as a god, which means that you get all the perks. Go ahead and sign up for your benefits here. First one is the sword. Second one is the flipping, and now you get a Pegasus.
Yeah. I mean, and the horse looks good. He really does. But I got Medusa's head. I got my sword. I flipped it into its little sheath. The music's kicked in. By the way, that eclipse would have been over, in the next, I don't know, minute. At that point,
it's a god eclipse. They're doing fun things.
They're doing
It's the convergence.
Poseidon, who's like a major player in Greek mythology. He's like barely in this thing. He's like off to the side there just watching.
Like I said, I think that they had way more god shenanigans going on. So this is the Immortal Line, you know, but in one of these scenes, and I don't know which one, but apparently it is the one that made it into the movie, Emma Thompson. Release the Kraken. Oh, so great. Emma Thompson is hiding behind that throne.
Really?
Because she was visiting Liam Neeson, who's a friend of hers, on set. And
oh, yeah, they've been friends for a long time.
They didn't realize that she was talking, that they were talking, and they just called action on a scene as she was talking with somebody else, and she like jumped behind the throne and had to sit there through a whole scene. Because she was filming Nanny McPhee, I think it was.
So they built this cool hang the damsel, you know, off the tower contraption in the back. They did, you know, establish the fact that they were building it earlier. This guy's still just...
Yeah.
His arm's fine again, though, by the way. It's not burned anymore. Oh, it's been maybe a day or two. He got some salve on there, maybe.
Right.
Andromeda's back for her third scene in the entire movie.
Mm-hmm. Not as pretty as the last chick.
Yeah.
Not to be mean to her. I don't mean that as a diss, but I don't know. I like the last lady. I think that she was cute. But it's just like, I get kind of why they would switch to Io, because there's no relationship between her and Perseus whatsoever. And I don't really know how I would establish it. You know?
Well, you have the movie get an extra, 10 minutes at the beginning to establish some character stuff.
Yeah, but that gets forgotten. You need them to really be into each other.
Well, and she needs to go on the adventure.
You know?
Like she went with him although, in Clash in the original one, they literally fell in love because he stalked her in her sleep, so that's not much better, I guess.
Right. Oh my goodness. But yeah, here we have their version of the Kraken, which isn't entirely unlike the Cetus.
Yeah. I mean, it is definitely a better version than the 81 version.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mean even like with like better CG. Like just the design itself is at least somewhat closer to, what it's supposed to look like. At least it's got tentacles.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of wish that this, the whole thing going down with the Kraken had been handled a little differently. I think that it's just done a little fun. Strangely, they have their cool trailer shot of like Pegasus flying through its tentacles. That's fine. But I think that this could have been a lot more, and not even necessarily more expensive and more budget, but I think that there's a lot of other stuff they could have done with this sequence.
They've done a lot of just generic, people running through city dying sequences, which is in every disaster or horror movie, like not horror, monster movie ever made. But it feels very generic because at this point it's just the tentacles, it's just random citizens in the city, stuff getting crushed. I mean, it's just there's nothing remarkable happening from a set piece point of view at this point.
Yeah.
Hey, he's finally not, going,
I have a thing. I'm gonna go, find some cough drops.
Oh my god, so he was faking? He was just trying to get workers' comp, wasn't he? That's what's going on here. This is just Hades' scheme.
He also needs to get, some balm for that forehead of his. Yeah, his skin's a little dry.
Yeah.
Noticed. The idea that like Hades is like, oh crap, I forgot, and like gets going.
He's like, yeah, darn.
I did the one thing. That's a trailer shot coming out of the eclipse there. Also, the one shot where all the little figurines that represent, I guess, real people, like falling and disintegrating. I thought that was just a kind of cool way to, remind you like, yep, they are dead. Now this sequence goes on too long in my opinion. Just like the bats or whatever. Just the length of time that he's chasing the one that gets a hold of Medusa's head is just like.
But
I don't mind the idea. I feel like it becomes a little bit drawn out. They go through the whole city here.
You see, this is what I'm talking about again with the power imbalance for Hades. He's like, I built this creature that could destroy gods. It's mine. It's my pet. That I created myself, and I'm getting stronger, he told Mr. Scarface earlier. And his way to take on this demigod is to turn into a bunch of imps, goblins, like harpies.
They're odd little creatures.
It's just it's a strange choice, and I don't think it's the right choice. And I think that this sequence could have been a lot more tight, a lot more interesting and visually dynamic than a chase sequence with a bunch of imps.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to see a chase sequence with a bunch of imps unless the imps are like funny. And this wouldn't be the right spot for funny.
No, it wouldn't. But yeah, the Kraken really, it's just, I think they give the tentacles kind of all the glory shots, and then you get like the one where he's finally revealed, and then kind of just yells, and nothing really else happens.
But that's been the problem with both of these movies, is that the Kraken isn't a huge threat.
No.
Like, it was really cool in the last one, mostly because of Harryhausen's amazing stop-motion abilities.
Yeah, I think that, now, am I just making this up in my head? Is the Kraken in one of the Pirates movies?
Pirates of the Caribbean 2, and then its corpse is seen in Pirates of the Caribbean 3.
Okay.
Was it actually it's the main driving force of Pirates of the Caribbean 2, and a lot of the people who reviewed this movie harkened back to its use in Pirates 2 because it was used so well. They gave you 2 separate scenes leading up to the climax of the movie that tells you why the Kraken is something to be so feared.
Yeah, because
this movie doesn't do that.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, because that's like, I've not seen that movie in a long time, but I remember it being more effective than this, for sure.
Well, it is a better, like, this is the hero scene from the trailer.
Yeah.
Him going through the tentacles. I remember that very specifically. Pirates 2 is better than people to give it credit for. It is the weakest of the trilogy, but it's a great action adventure and has some absolutely amazing scenes and stunt work throughout.
That is, he got very lucky there. Just saying.
He did. And, like, that scene was weird to me. It made no sense. Like, how did he fly like that?
Well, he skydived down. Ooh, Kraken's angry. He wants some tasty virgin. Although they did not make a point of her being a virgin at all in this movie. Is that being like?
I don't think that would go over
of
in even 2010 day and age. And it's ancient Greece, and she's really pretty, and definitely in her 20s. So, what are the chances?
True, but that's like a big part of old myths, though.
Yeah, but they don't want to. Kink shame.
Yeah,
or whatever it is.
Yeah, so we got the gotta have that hero shot. But yeah, the Kraken, when he you see his head, does nothing but growl like twice.
You see, that's what I'm saying. If they had taken out a whole bunch of the impiness, okay, and had it to where maybe what's his face was like powering up, Hades was like giving power like he did to the other guy, Calibos, and give it to the Kraken, so the Kraken was almost like more extra powerful, and he does the Medusa thing. And it starts to kind of turn it to stone, but it also, this is just my idea of how I would fix this scene, okay? The Kraken gets kind of extra powered up. And so when he does the Medusa thing, and because he's being powered up by a god of death, the whole living flesh thing becomes iffy. And so suddenly Hades, so it doesn't quite kill him. He's kind of turning to stone, he's weakened, and then you can have a hero scene of Perseus actually using his god sword, or doing something like this, to kill the Kraken with his own hand, which some of the legends of Perseus have him killing the Kraken with a sword. And it could have been really awesome and epic. And then it could tie into a scene
She'd 100% be dead, by the way.
him. Who? Her?
She'd been down there for a while.
Of him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. It could then transition into a better version of him saving Andromeda under the water.
Yeah.
But again, it's all conjecture. I'm not
Yeah.
a professional.
Yeah, it's just
The people who did the work do deserve some really good pats on the back and such.
I've heard versions of this said by many people, and I generally agree with it. I don't think almost anybody in Hollywood ever sets out to make a bad movie. But
Have
it's
you
just-
ever seen Scary Movie?
well, okay. not parody. But it's just that whole the whole end sequence. It's just kind of generically it's not creative. That's the best way. But it doesn't have any of the sequences like, wow, somebody really had a great idea for a sequence here about how to okay, if you did this, and just you have those sequences where you're like that was interesting. Well, we were talking about this with Dungeons and Dragons. Well, it feels like a while ago. It has been a while ago. But the final fight, the way they're using magic is creative, and it seems like, oh, yeah, this is not just the generic, like, we're just hitting stuff and running away from stuff. That's just, stone is exploding when it gets hit by a monster. It's just, there's some creativity happening, and there's
a fat dragon.
It would have been nice to see a little bit more of that in this film. But here we go.
I think this movie...
We were just like, the whole end there, where like he saved her, but she probably would have been like, yeah, you can have me if you want me, and he's like, nah, I got to go.
And it's just like he marries Andromeda. They have a kid. They have 7 kids, I think, but one of them is Perseus, and Perseus moves to the far east and ends up founding an empire named after himself called Persia. Otherwise known as Persia.
Yeah.
And that's actually one of the Greek myths versions of like the founding of Persia. Which I don't know. I find it kind of interesting.
Yeah. I do like, he's kind of getting rid of all his stuff. He's like, he wants to go back to his quiet. He wants to go be a fisherman again.
Yeah. Ain't nothing wrong with that. A man of your skills. Farming.
He's kind of having a little chat here. And
what I think is needed, I think that there was a whole storyline which you see glimpses of.
Yeah.
That was cut. That is all about Zeus getting humbled. And I think that the movie is weaker for not having that more prevalent.
Well, and I think that at the beginning of this movie, when it's brought up that, hey, you have a son down there, he's like, he's chosen his fate, it'll be the same as everybody. It's like, I think that was sincere. I think that Zeus didn't, at least he was written to not care. And then he starts caring, but the movie forgot to like put the scene in where something changed, where he started to care.
Yeah, exactly. Son of Zeus.
Oh, the son of Zeus. For the adventures he's been on, his shirt's in pretty good shape. Not even torn.
I think
a little
he's
bit.
probably changed his...
Hey, you got the girl. Zeus brought her back.
Yeah.
Now you get to have
Zeus
kids.
brought her back. She's just like, I finally got the sweet release of death.
Nope.
And but yeah, that whole thing with Io was post-production. And I think it was a little strange.
Ooh, wants me to
I don't
watch
think it really
Jurassic
belonged.
Park.
Wants me to watch Groundhog Day.
So yeah, I mean,
both of which I suppose are fine candidates for our podcast.
Yep. Groundhog Day is definitely an argument for a kind of a sleeper genre film.
Yeah, it kind of is.
But yeah, I mean, this is one of those perfect movies that's just perfectly average movies. Like this to me is just it's a 6 out of 10. Maybe 6.5 if you're being generous with a couple of the acting, the actors. But it's not. It's anybody who's like, this is so bad. Like, no, it's not. But it's also not good. It's just perfectly mediocre.
Yeah, it's unremarkable. I think its sin for me is that it's unambitious. Maybe that's me talking like of the time, and it's not actually fair to say that.
Well,
But it just, like you were saying about the action sequences, it's just kind of, okay, that's happening. You can see the influences from X, Y, and Z, but at the end of the day, they just kind of feel flat. They feel a little soulless. They feel like they're going by something a little bit formulaic, and it just needs a little bit more uniqueness. It
Yeah.
needs something that's going to make it stand out
well, there's
and really show that there was somebody behind the scenes who was being like, let's do this really differently.
yeah, I think that this movie really shows part of what happens when you have a movie that a studio said, we need this type of movie. What do we have available? Make that. Versus if this movie had been the passion project of somebody,
Yeah.
not that it magically would have been great, because there are plenty of passion projects that did not turn out well, but it usually at least gives it an identity, a flavor of some kind, a vibe of some kind that makes it feel like somebody's fingerprint was on it. And this really does feel like Warner Brothers going, we need something. And oh yeah, we've got Greek gods. That would work. And just hired a bunch of people, found a bunch of actors who were perfectly competent, found, a generic, handsome, leading guy who wasn't super expensive, and just hired them all to make this movie and remake, a somewhat classic film. And that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's what you get. And it feels like that. Like the movie feels exactly like what it should in a way, given why it was made. Because the why something's made does matter to me. You even in the MCU, and the MCU is famous for, kind of the creative identity of directors struggling and clashing a little bit with, the overall feel they were going for. But the early MCU films that still had kind of that identity of the filmmaker that made them, I mean, it helps.
It does.
And I think where so many of those great one-off films, we've seen several of them so far, and in the 90s and the 80s and 2000s, where just a random guy was like, I have a weird idea. And even if it's not like amazing, it still has something special about it. I think of like Fifth Element or something like that, where it's just oddball one-offs where just a filmmaker had an idea and went for it. And anyways.
Even the original Clash of the Titans was very much that.
Yeah, you're right.
Very much. It was a passion project for somebody who grew up in Greece and loved Greek mythology. Now, just to touch on it, this movie was made on a budget of $125 million.
It made plenty of money.
You know how much it made?
Oh yeah, it was like almost, what is it? Either 4 or 6, I forget. It made plenty of money. Like it was a success for sure.
It's interesting that you say 4 or 6, because in reality it made just a couple bucks shy of $500 million.
Okay. Yeah,
that's huge. That's a success.
Oh yeah,
that's an almost quintupling,
yeah,
or quadrupling of your budget.
There's a reason they fast tracked the sequel.
Yeah, and the sequel, I believe that the sequel has some big problems. Absolutely, I genuinely do believe that it is a better movie. It is a better film. It takes a lot of the weird little threads that they began in this movie, like the prayer boycott is the way that it was referred to behind the scenes, of like the people kind of rejecting the gods. It goes more into that. It goes more into Zeus's need to mature and humble. Instead of being out for revenge against Hades, which is a plot thread that was kind of dropped early in this movie. It instead is all about like the protecting of Perseus's family. It comes from a place of like hope instead of a place of dour. And it has some good stuff to it.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I was seeing how many
Brian,
credits are on this thing. I feel like probably because of the post conversion. That's probably why. 3D conversion probably added a lot of credits.
There was lots of stuff to it. It had a lot of on location filming.
Yeah.
It had a lot of practical effects. It had a lot of costuming and
Yeah.
all this stuff, and tons of VFX. So
Yeah, we see
it's gonna have a
the
pretty
animatronics team here
decent-
in the credits. Yeah. What were you gonna ask me though?
How would you fix it?
I
How would you fix this?
This film has. I feel like there's almost too many things to like really like. This is because it's not one big glaring issue. It's like multiple. Usually, if a movie has like 1 to 3 really obvious like tweak this, fix this, tweak this. This is a movie where I do feel like it needed a little more of an identity, as I already said, a little bit more of a somebody had a distinct idea for what they wanted this movie to be, and a creative person, not a studio person. Somebody who was thinking, oh man, if somebody who had been thinking for years, if I could remake that movie, this is what I would do, and this is what I would try, and this is what I would. It just doesn't have that. It feels like it would just it was shot to make money. This was an investment, not a project. I mean, I wouldn't change much of the casting. I think Sam Worthington is fine, but you could definitely have done better. Definitely would have had more just build up at the beginning. Either shoot it a little bit untraditionally, where you kind of jump right into action, but you do a lot more kind of flashback sequences, or you invest in a solid 15 to 20 minute, compelling character piece to get you up and going and introduce these characters and why you should care about them and why their interactions with each other are interesting before you get to your first big action scene. Just find a way to bring more character into it. And just beyond that, I don't know. I think from an editing point of view, they could have just flushed out some of the like I said, there's just some missing inconsistencies, like from both the editing and the writing, that you have some things like you've pointed out multiple times that just don't kind of contradict each other. They don't really add up. The movie never just completely throws something out there that it hasn't telegraphed a little bit, but it definitely doesn't put in any kind of work to really set it up as something that seems like a natural outcome given what's been happening. It's just, this is a movie where, like, to fix it, I think that you need 20 small tweaks and 1 or 2 big ones.
Yeah, I very much agree. I think that the power scaling of the gods needs to be more consistent. I think that the plot needs some refinement. I think that the characters need to be more distinct, so you feel something when they die. I think that one of the things that fairly simple change that they could have done, because there's a thing that I've seen happen a lot, and I think that this movie fell into that, is that they kind of wanted the big sprawling one set piece to another set piece adventure, and so the result is that they're always on the move, and it's kind of Lord of the Ringsy, where they need to get there. I think that one of the things that they could have done is between each of their little adventure-y set pieces, each of their goals, or I should say, between, there'd only be one of these, because it would be between going to the Fates and going to and then going to Medusa, is that they return to the city. Okay. And you can see, like, give some of the guys a family or something.
Yeah.
Give them pathos that way. And then after that, like, build a relationship with Andromeda. I don't understand why Io is even in the movie.
Yeah.
Sam Worthington's fine. Cut down on kind of the superfluous weird action, kind of like the imps and the flips.
Yeah.
And give them something.
Well, if you had
stronger, I guess.
If you had a, like, put the time in to create some really cool action sequences that were pull it back, let some really good swordplay happen, that would have been cool. I think definitely having the Kraken be more than a natural disaster before he's killed would have been, nice, as far as like actually have, maybe show some of the city's last defenders like trying to, to do something, and had it be more interactive and show the Kraken, really being a menace in a more interesting way. Just you can have Sam Worthington's, you can have Perseus barely make it in time to save Andromeda. I mean, that's fine. That's almost, you kind of almost have to do that. That's just how it works. But
Yeah.
just have his obstacle be more than a bobsled ride through the city on Pegasus.
Yes, exactly. It like tighten up on the expansiveness of the action, of the clumsiness of the action.
Yeah. Who would you, if you think about it, and we should wrap up, but who would you, if you were gonna cast Perseus with, actors in their late 20s in this era, who would you think of?
Oh, in this era? Oh, late 20s in this era.
Yeah, late 20s, early 30s, like, that age range of, your leading guy actors.
Oh man.
I was trying to think.
there's a few to
I
choose
don't
from.
I don't have a big answer either here. I was just thinking about this. I was wondering if you had one, because I'm like, I feel like there was quite a few guys on TV you could have pulled in.
I was gonna say, weirdly enough, my first thought was Jensen Ackles. But I don't know, like, he's got charm, he's fun, but I think he'd be a little bit too goofy almost. I think he'd be a little bit too American.
Yeah. I mean, I would have enjoyed
Carl Urban.
if they had he's always good. I think even in 2010, I think he would have been too old.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I think it would have been cool to get somebody who wasn't Western, somebody who was a Middle Eastern actor, who could have come and just been a little bit more, like a Greek, or I said Middle Eastern, but a Greek or Italian, somebody like that.
Israeli.
Mm.
So I can't think of a lot. I was mainly thinking of Gal Gadot, but geez, that's a big one. That's an ask.
Yeah.
Henry Cavill.
Yeah, at the very least, somebody European. Yeah,
it needs to be.
Yeah, I think that's the thing is too. Sam Worthington I think he really struggles to. I mean, I know he's Australian, not American, but he's very Western, and it's very difficult to, kind of get that out of his. He's not a good enough actor to overcome his own heritage in the characters he portrays.
At least not at this time.
Yeah.
But I also think that that's one of the reasons why they cast him. I think that they were trying to turn him into like the next Russell Crowe. I genuinely believe that they were thinking that this could be his Gladiator.
Yeah.
His sword and sandal revelation. But this oh man, I'm gonna obsess over this now, man. How dare you?
Well, if anybody has a good idea, let us know.
Yeah. Comment. Email.
Yeah.
Smoke signal. Because I'm going to obsess over this, and my brain is already kind of spinning a little bit.
Yes.
I'm trying to think of all I could think of are like superhero actors.
Yeah, no, that's the thing is I keep struggling to think of somebody who wasn't already big. I think of somebody who wasn't big, because I think getting somebody who's not unknown but just smaller role would have been
okay. Hear me out.
Okay, go for it.
I know that he would have to do something about the accent. They'd have to be careful with the accent, okay? Jason Momoa.
Interesting.
Because he played Conan shortly after this.
Yep.
He's got some sword chops. He's big. He's very charismatic.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, it's an option.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
we also had, 2010. We were just starting to get kind of the return of kind of your hero male leads coming back into, because early 2000s was like kind of there wasn't a lot of them. I mean, there was that's not entirely but it was like, we kind of we're past the prime of the 90s, and you were started to get guys like The Rock and Jason Momoa coming back in, and you had your the MCU was kicking off, a whole group of people, of guys who are becoming household names again. But this is I don't know if I love this, but I'm curious because he's a much better actor than Sam Worthington. I'm curious what Chris Pine would have done with this role.
Chris Pine. That's an interesting one.
Because he can be very serious when he wants to be, but he also can be very funny.
Fixated on Andrew Garfield.
Yeah, I don't think he has the physique.
No, I don't think so either. Chris Pine could be a really interesting one. I'd believe that.
Because he is somebody who can oscillate between. As I do think Perseus could have had a little bit more of a lighthearted moment here and there, but also a very earnestness to him. Anyways, we should wrap this up though. We are getting late, at least at the time of recording, and I am getting tired. But this has been fun.
Yeah.
This is definitely something that's fun about doing this with you, is that even movies that are, average, are more fun when you experience them together.
Exactly. Like we say in our little opening, that we want people to experience what it's like to sit down and watch a movie with us, which means incessant nattering.
Yes, that's very true. Oh my goodness. But,
there we are, well and nattered.
Well, we will be back next week with Wrath of Titans? No.
Wrath of the Titans.
Wrath of the Titans. I'm like, it's Wrath and something Titans.
Wrath of the Khan.
Wrath of the Khan. We already did that. That was a good movie. Wrath of the Titans. Yep.
Yeah.
But looking forward to it.
Absolutely no reason for that djinn to have existed.
Yeah, it just was there because they I think they just wanted a good guy creature. They wanted one of the fantastic creatures to be a good guy, probably something like that, maybe. And I bet you somebody was just saw a sketch, and they're like, "This is old. This is kind of cool. Let's put that in there." And somebody's like, "That's a whole different." It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And to be fair, in the context of this film, it didn't matter. But I still hear you.
I'm actually done.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
There's doors and corners, kid. If you don't clear the room, if you don't come in slow,